Good evening, councillors. I now open the extraordinary council meeting on the 29th of August at 7:03 p.m. Could I please ask Councillor Pandolfini to read the acknowledgement of country?
Yeah. I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the land of the Bidjigal and the Gadigal people who occupied the Sydney coast, the traditional owners. On behalf of Randwick Council, I acknowledge and pay my respects to the elders past and present and to Aboriginal people in attendance today. Sovereignty was never ceded.
Thank you. Councillor D'Souza to read the prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Almighty God, we humbly beseech you to bestow your blessings upon this council and to direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement of your glory and the true welfare of the people of the city of Randwick and Australia.
Thank you, councillors. It appears that we have a full house, so no apologies or leaves of absence. Okay, there being no requests to attend the meeting by audio-visual link. Councillors, do we have any declarations of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest? Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kelly, do you have that in the minutes? Okay, thank you. We now move to addresses of council by members of the public. I will now read the chairperson's announcement in respect of the Privacy and Personal Information Protection Act. Members of the public are advised that the proceedings of this meeting will be recorded for the purposes of Clause 520 to 523 of Council's Code of Meeting Practice. Audio-video recordings of meetings are prohibited without the express permission of Council. A person may be expelled from the meeting for using or having used an audio-video recorder without the express authority of Council. We'll now move to the public component of the meeting. Members of the public who are addressing, well, I believe it's member of the public who is addressing tonight's meeting have a maximum of 4 minutes in which to put forward their case with no extensions available. Presenters will be stopped at 4 minutes. Councillors may ask questions of presenters at the end of the public submission. For the member of the public who is presenting this evening, you are under no obligation to answer the question if you do not wish to. Thank you. The first speaker in relation to NR4/23, Notice of Rescission Motion, submitted by Councillors Chappell, Veach, Nielsen, Pandolfini and Olive, regards the Maroubra Road Traffic Corridor Study. Speaking in favour of the rescission motion is Mr. Elliot Jones on behalf of Bike East. Mr. Jones.
Evening, Mayor and Councillors. I live and work locally, chair Randwick Precinct and represent Bike East Randwick. Yet having last month been hit by an SUV that drove off, I also have strong personal views contained within, which might not reflect on either group. I support the rescission motion to overturn point E because it directly goes against the first of the Bizios report's final recommendations, and I quote, to improve road safety for all users. Page 178 of previous meeting minutes. Yet here we are, in spite of all modern research for the societal benefits of cycling, youth anxiety about a burning planet, not to mention the daily dangers faced by your commuting colleagues. We're here apparently to quickly and quietly undermine expensive previous studies and valuable public feedback and the needs of short and medium-term road users who don't seem to be represented here today, of a younger generation, future ratepayers, future voters, who might also not be aware of the dark arts of politics, such as don't outright deny, just delay. The stats and science: cycle journeys per kilometre benefit society as a whole in dollar terms, whereas car journeys cost. The majority of Sydney would ride more if it was safer. Our children's activity rates are embarrassingly low and our obesity rates are high. But Randwick has seen a huge growth in cycling year on year this year. Some councils would kill for. Thanks, Tony. There are previous commitments you've made to lower future road tolls, increase walking and riding journeys, build 30 kilometres of separated cycleway. This would be a great candidate to tick off some of that. Then there's that feedback from over 150 humans who mentioned safety as a concern in their responses. being delayed by a small number of unspecified small number of emails. We do not realise, or do we not realise that the never been on a bus, never been on a bike, must park my SUV right outside somewhere mentality is a bit outdated and maybe elitist in a city of 5 million in 2023. Small shop owners have concerns. I've worked in them. I manage one currently. I've served thousands of Randwick locals coffee, most recently learning upwards of 60 hospital staff by name and the coffee order. So if any one of them had to deal with a fatality, I might notice a change in shift. And in that case, for example, my neighbour who I passed tonight on the way here didn't have time to come. She's got a bike, 2 kids. She rides through this area, terrified of it. Was she on a cargo bike taken out? You'd probably have to have a press release, right? I've got a draft if you want to borrow it. Dear family of the deceased, we regret your loss. Your son or daughter, we understand, was alleviating her climate concerns by riding, but someone was in a hurry. And we decided to delay the cycleway design in favour of car first, commerce and street design against well practice, all stats and science on the benefits of active transport. Finish it off if you like. What else have I got? A quote from Peter Garrett, how can we sleep when our streets are burning? Paraphrasing. Questions? Oh, how can we ride on the red Labour coattails? I'm going to quote Chris Minns here, that this is Minister Halen, investing in active transport is good for public health, lowers emissions, congestion. Minns says we want all our communities to be more walkable and cycle friendly. It shouldn't matter whether you're in Leppington or Lilyfield. Everyone should have access to quality walking and cycling infrastructure. They're going to legislate 50% reduction in carbon emissions on 2005 levels by 2030. This would be a good way to help with that. Help me, help you.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay, there is a request for an extension, Mr. Elliott, for 1 minute. Mr. Elliott, and then
Thanks.
it appears we have some questions.
Okay, just something that stuck out to me, the wording of the report.
Sorry, Mr. Jones, my apologies.
Sorry, thank you. The wording of the report, pedestrians and vehicles, I quote. So no bikes? Is a bike a vehicle? For many people it is. They choose to leave their tax-paying car in the garage, leaving space on the road. But if it's my vehicle, I've had 3 cars stolen in Randwick in the last 3 years. Shows a blind spot, that we don't consider it as much, even in the consultant wording, of which there's a active transport consultant report being prepared at the moment, which is taking a much-needed overview approach. Why do this now? Yeah. Great.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. I saw a hand up from Councillor Hamilton first, who has a question. Then I'll go to Councillor Veach.
Thanks, Mr. Jones. My question is in relation to a comment that you made about driving to the shops is an act of elitists. What about those in wheelchairs? What would you say to the people that are unable to ride a bike or catch public transport and regularly, but they need to take a vehicle in order for them to get to the chemist?
Well, then my point about all road users covers that. And if you're scared of taking car parks away from shops, it's hard to even add an extra one for... actually, I objected to when the butcher wanted to put an extra 10 metres for the van that comes and drops carcasses once a week, because I thought, hey, we could put a car park there for bikes. To be fair, I didn't think about adding another disabled park. It's a great idea.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
For your satiric delivery.
You're welcome.
Councillor Veach.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
It sounds like you cycle quite a bit.
Yep.
How do you think Randwick sits in relation to other council areas in terms of their cycling infrastructure and, how are we going? Where could we see improvements?
I'm lucky enough to live in Waratah Street, Ave. I can only do 150 metres of on-road cycling. I can be on the cycleway beside the light rail, all the way through to Moore Park. Yeah, it's pretty good. But if you look at the main road of Randwick, which has just had some curb done, you know, the main part of the junction, we're talking gaps like this, you know, to ride through. So even for a confident cyclist, I'm worried about coming off. So the weight of, you know, as we see more and more, 2 kids on a cargo bike, when you've got a bus, a delivery, you know, there's more people going through the area on buses than there are in cars, but we still don't account for that in our transport. Yeah, sorry?
Okay, thank you. Councillor Olive.
Yes, thanks very much for coming in, Mr Jones.
Thank you.
Do you think that council will suffer reputational damage if this rescission motion is not carried tonight amongst a certain section of the community, or maybe the whole community?
100%. I think, to further answer that question, I think if you look at this Australia as a country as a whole, we're lagging behind cycle targets. Europe's, you know, even electric cars, we won't be able to buy one from Europe in 8 years. Cycleways are the same. The old arguments of, you know, it's too hilly, and sure, I can't get up most of the hills in Coogee. But yes, that's the thing. Sydney, as a council's moving well. There's just so many easy targets for short trips that we can take off the road and make safe. And yeah, I agree. Yes, it will.
Thank you. Are there any... Councillor said.
Hi, thank you for coming today. You do realise there's 11 priority bike tracks in our council local government area?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you ridden any?
Yes, I have.
Ever been hit by anyone?
No.
Sorry, could I just interrupt? My apologies.
You can ask me.
No, so to be clear, sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
Councillors can ask questions of members of the public. It doesn't tend to go the other way around, despite a desire sometimes
So
to do it.
how many
Councillor
questions?
said, Councillor said,
Okay.
could you please ask your question?
And due to reputational damage, Maroubra Road's not one of them. Is that correct?
Clarify your question, please.
That there's 11 priority cycleways that we've decided on, and we've had community consultation. And
Great.
we've planned it all out, which
Great.
is great for us, which is fantastic.
Great.
Because no one's denying that we don't need bike tracks. We made
That we do.
We do. No one's denying we don't need them. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
We do need them. So,
So
Maroubra,
I
Maroubra
deny.
Road,
Sorry,
which
I
we're
deny
talking
that
about
we.
today,
I deny that we don't need them.
Sorry,
no, I said we do
sorry,
need them.
Danny. Sorry, my apologies. Councillor said, could you please be direct in your question?
That's my question.
you.
Maroubra Road is not one of them.
Why shouldn't it be?
Because it's not on our priority plans. We've got 11 others, and we've got that, and there is an east-west connect. Did you know there's an east-west connect in this plan, which is Maroubra Road?
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
interrogating.
Thank you.
Have you heard the speech?
Okay. Councillor said.
Why isn't it?
Because it was never thought of. It was
Okay, councillors. Thank you. Thank you.
And I've got one
We
last
shouldn't
one.
engage in debate
I won't debate. I'll just
between
have one
members
last
of the
question.
public and the chair.
If we were to build the Maroubra Road
D-
bike
d-
track, I've got one question.
Third question. Good.
Just my last one, sorry, I should say. If we were to build it,
Yes.
it would have to be a connection to Anzac Parade. And if you go through Anzac Parade at the moment, there's a lot of cyclists going through there. I'm just saying, where does it, if you build that track, there is no Anzac Parade bike track, which is, should be the priority of this council.
Okay.
and
Look,
should be the bike district. Do you
council.
agree? There's my question.
Do I agree? Not with you, I don't think.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
A general reminder that all questions should be questions. That's why I said a general reminder. Thank you. Are there any further questions? Okay, there being no further questions, thank you very much, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now move to NR4/23, notice of rescission motion submitted by Councillors Chappell, Veach, Nielsen, Pandolfini and Olive. Do I have a mover of the rescission motion? Moved Councillor Chappell, seconded Councillor Pandolfini. Councillor Chappell is the mover of the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you everybody who has come along to hear this tonight. I appreciate your indulgence. I know we just had a meeting a week ago, and we're all a bit exhausted. What we're seeking to do today is to rescind the motion that was moved last week, specifically in relation to Part E. So there's no attempt to actually rescind any of the work in relation to the intersections. There is no idea that the intersections can't proceed, that they need to wait for a cycleway or anything like that. It is simply in relation to Part E. I have circulated the foreshadowed motion reflecting what I think we should do about Part E instead. We have a bike route priority list. We have an active transport plan that's currently under consideration. We've recently endorsed a community strategic plan that includes some fairly ambitious targets for bike riding. We're known as a progressive council who do the right thing on this stuff by our residents, but we still need to actually make that grid in our area and make it make sense. I couldn't ride here tonight because there literally is not a safe route between my place and this place. These are, I live quite near Maroubra Beach. This is the centre of Randwick. These are fairly standard areas that we should be connecting quite easily, and they're not there yet. All I'm asking here is that we keep this under consideration. I'm not saying we put it as a priority. I'm not saying we build it before any of these intersections, because we certainly should not do that. But we should put what is a very obvious connection in our cycling infrastructure in the mix for when we talk to our community about the grid we're going to build. And the grid we're going to build should be where people want to ride, and people want to ride down Maroubra Road. That is a very obvious place. It connects to the Malabar Road cycleway. It connects to the centre where they want to go to their shopping. It connects up to East Gardens where there's a huge population centre where they also might want to go to their shopping. And currently, unless you are a fairly confident road user, you can't do this. I can do it. I'm scared, but I can do it. But I can't take my kids on that road. That's not safe. So what you do is you put them on the cycle path. Then I'm on the cycle path, on the footpath. So I'm on the footpath with them. And so is every Uber rider, because there's no separated cycleway. They're being driven up onto the footpaths. And I know personally a number of people who've almost been run over by those things because we are not putting separated cycleways in sensible places. On my ride into Redfern when I go to work, I hit the City of Sydney cycle path just on the other side of Todman Avenue. And the change is immediate. I relax. All the Uber riders are riding in those lanes. It's safe. The pedestrians are safe. The cyclists are safe. The cars don't have us zipping in and out of them. It actually it's a positive outcome for everyone. There is no competition in road use here. Like, cyclists benefiting doesn't mean drivers are having a worse time. In fact, you prefer us not to be on the road with you. I, as a driver, prefer cyclists not to be sharing the road with me because it's really tough. We are seeing more cycling. We are seeing children riding more. We want children to ride more. We want children not to be sitting at home on screens. We want them to be able to get out and be active. We want them to be able to ride to their mates' friends' houses like we did. But they can't unless we put in safe options for them. And just about the Maroubra area, the Maroubra precinct meeting last night, there were quite a lot of people speaking in support of this cycleway. We're seeing an increase in the number of electric bikes in the area, so we are going to see a larger cohort of people riding. Older people are riding. I obviously come from Europe, and my family over there, my older family, like in their 60s, 70s and 80s, they're riding electric bikes to get around because they've got safe cycle paths. The Maroubra Road connection just needs to be in the mix. I'm not saying build it now. I'm not saying deprioritise anything else. And I hope we can all agree that that's not a radical move. That is just what we should be doing in terms of active transport planning. We're being told by our active transport team that this is a decent option. I can see by the heat map data from the area that this is an already used option despite how unsafe it is. And I really would like support for this rescission motion. As I say, I don't think this means we build it, we're not committing to it, we're not making a resolution that this cycleway is going to happen next year. It is just that this must be a thing that we talk to our community about. 14% of them in this consultation told us this was their number one thing for this corridor. And we just said, stuff you, we're going to wipe that off in the middle of the night. I just don't think that's good enough. Go out and talk to them. Say, actually, maybe this isn't the better option. Maybe Fitzgerald, maybe Danny's right, that Fitzgerald Avenue is a better option. Maybe it is, but let's have that conversation. Let's not just make a midnight decision at the last minute to knock off this long-term piece of planning.
Thank you. Councillor Pandolfini is the seconder of the motion.
Yeah, I would just also urge the councillors to listen to the tens of people that emailed us, the 7-year-old, the regular bike riders of all ages, the PNC members from the local schools, and active members of the community who don't ride, who can't ride, who have urged us to put this back on the agenda just for community consultation. I think it really is disrespectful to just delete it with no research, with no community consultation, and no real apparent reason.
Thank you, Councillor. I think I saw Veach first, and then I'll go to Nielsen, and then Hay, I believe.
Thank you. I just have some questions through to the relevant officer.
Okay, thank you.
One is, could we just clarify what's happening in terms of the study, the active transport study, how this might relate to it? And secondly, there have been some comments saying that if we put this in, then the Anzac Parade one, it means we wipe off something else. Could we also get some responses to that, please?
Thank you. Through to the Director of City Services. Through to the Manager of Integrated Transport.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, sorry, I forgot the first part. What was that?
It was just if you could provide some clarification about this active transport study that's happening at the moment.
Yep.
Thank you.
So we have
and the consultation.
consultants engaged at the moment. They've gone out to the community to produce the active transport strategy. We expect to have that before council as a report, likely October.
Thank you. Through to the Manager of Integrated Transport.
So just in relation to the priority routes that were referred to, because they date back, I believe, to 2015, are we now sort of re-looking at those to see if they are still the best ones?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we are planning to review the construction priority, likely December, or if we can't make that, maybe February next year. And that will include an element of community consultation.
Okay, through Councillor Veach, your question.
I'll just repeat it, sorry. It was, what was it? There were some suggestions that maybe if we built one, it would mean not building another one, but is that how the funding and that sort of thing works?
To the Manager of Integrated Transport.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, the projects are quite separate. We are working on the Anzac Parade project at the moment. We're developing plans currently. So any decision about Maroubra Road Cycleway, yay or nay, would not affect that project.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nielsen? Okay, Councillor Hay.
Good evening, everyone. I speak against rescission. I took the liberty of cycling down River Road 3 times this morning. 3 full laps, nice slow pace, about half an hour. I saw a grand total of 2 cyclists. Maroubra Road, one of the key arterial roads, had 2 cyclists. Now, it's important to remember that it's an east-west corridor, and the 2 people I saw, they were on the far east section, and they were probably just getting onto the Maroubra Road cycleway. Now, why does this matter? You've got a population that when it cycles to work in what is apparently peak hour, they will cycle to the city. They don't cycle east-west. There is an absolute priority in, to the extent there is a priority, we must put it on the north-south corridors. That's where people actually go. Now, you might say that you might double the people riding bicycles if we put in a bicycle lane. Now, we went from 2 bicycles in 30 minutes, that could double to 4. Okay, is it really worth putting our residents through a year of construction, putting our residents through whether it's a loss of a traffic lane, loss of parking, is it really worth all that if they, at the end of the day, see 1 bicycle every 10 minutes? is not something we should do if it was free. Now, I'm someone who cycles to work most days, and I'm relatively fit, so I was okay getting up that hill, but I don't think a novice cyclist would be someone who could do it very easily, particularly when you get onto somewhere at the east end of River Road, when you've got that steep hill going down towards the beach or going along Malabar Road. Yes, and you are, of course, jeopardizing the very last thing said by the speaker. Do you agree that do you agree? And the speaker said, not with you, speaking to Danny. It is going to apparently jeopardize our ability to do north-south cycleways. Maybe, maybe not, but that's what we've been told. Anyway.
Sorry. Point of order.
I will hear your point of order. Councillor Hay, could you just briefly sit down? Could you please outline where Councillor Hay was breaching the code of meeting practice, Councillor Veach?
Thank you. That directly contradicts the information that was provided by the Manager of Integrated Transport.
Sorry.
It's a direct contradiction.
Sorry. Thank you very much. Councillor Hay, please continue. No point of order.
All we're getting is continual red herrings and... I'm sorry, and I really have a problem with the fake death notice being read out. This is very much inappropriate. Okay, look, I think I said what I need to say. I cannot support this cycleway. It just will not be used, and it's in our interest. It's within the community interest. You wouldn't do it if it was free. You're putting people through a year of construction. At the end of the day, they're going to see one bicycle every 5 or 10 minutes. Just not worth it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I have a hand up from, it was actually Councillor Nielsen, then Olive. Councillor Pandolfini, did you have a question, noting that you've spoken?
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Nielsen, Olive, then Pandolfini.
Yes. I just wanted to say to my fellow councillors that I think the rescission motion point E in the amended form, a decision on the Maroubra Road cycleway be deferred to a councillor briefing to discuss, among other matters, any potential grant funding implications. But I think the key thing in point E is in relation to the councillor briefing. It would allow us as a group to be better informed. We'll have the council staff there to answer more questions for us. I'm not saying that some of you might come back with the same decision. I'm obviously hopeful that you will support the Maroubra Road cycleway, but I would feel much more comfortable as a councillor if we all were better briefed across it. I know we've all read the business papers. I'm not criticising anybody for not reading what we've been given, but there are often bits of information that we need behind the detail, because some of the lead up to these reports have been quite many years in activity. So summarising reports and so on is an art in itself. So I would just urge you all to support the rescission motion. Let's get a thorough briefing on these matters, and then it can come back and we can make our decision whether in fact we support the motion that was approved at the meeting last Tuesday night, or better still, we support the amended one, which allows the Maroubra Road cycleway to continue going, the progress, the planning and progress and so on, to continue going forward. Because I think the important thing is, councillors, that we have to remember that, as someone else said, it's not going to be built tomorrow. Unfortunately, it won't even probably be built for a number of years, but it's all part of a planning strategy. And we're trying to think of the overall city. And I take your point, Councillor Hay, that it might not look like many people are riding up and down that road. But at the present time, I think the point is there are reasons why they're not. But the other reason is that there are many reasons why they should and they need to, because it's a way of getting yourself from, say, Maroubra to Bayside. It's often a way of getting to the university, to the hospitals and so on. So it's an important route for so many people, as we know, and it could be made so much safer, but it's important that it becomes part of a strategic plan. And if we suddenly decide, and I hate to say it, councillors, but it is rather a sudden decision because we've been working towards a certain way, if we delete this idea of it going forward, then we're complicating other things that are in there in the background supporting our ongoing strategic plans for the way transport and so on should be going forward. So I truly would urge you to support the rescission motion, have a briefing, we'll ask the council officers to really give us a thorough briefing, and then if you come back with the same opinion, as I said, hoping that you won't, but I know we'll all feel better if we're better informed. So I urge you to support the rescission motion, please, councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Olive.
Yes, thank you. I totally support what Councillor Nielsen is saying, that we need to have a briefing, because I think there's much that was not discussed, or there's more detail that we don't know about in the active transport strategy than has been is apparent at this particular meeting. I think, sort of it was put that, on, one morning's, cycling, that there aren't many cyclists going down Maroubra Road. I mean, I don't think that's a proper or legitimate kind of survey. But that apart, I think Councillor Nielsen makes a good point that, there are many cyclists who won't ride where they feel unsafe. It's like where you can say, why put in zebra crossings because no one walks there? No one's walking there without the zebra crossings. We put it there to allow people to walk. It's exactly the same with cycling, and I want to. I'd like to also try and clear up something. It was said that Maroubra Road is not a priority, cycleway. Now, I know in the BITSIOS report that what they've said is they've suggested delaying this, but allowing the crossings on each of the intersections to be built such that it could possibly be easier to retrofit a cycleway. And my understanding also from the cycling group, CABFAC, that councillors and the manager of integrated transport, attend, is that council have already received funding from Transport New South Wales for a concept design, for Maroubra Road. And so it concerns me that if we receive money from Transport New South Wales, and that's been confirmed, then and then we go back and say, oh no, we're just not going to do this now, and that money is wasted. That not only creates reputational damage in terms of our reputation as an active transport LGA, but also in terms of how Transport New South Wales view us for further funding, and I think that could impact our further funds. I think the other dimension is that it was seen with the funding for the lights in Sturt, Bundock and Avoca Street, that we managed to get those lights only because it was linked to our active transport strategy. If this doesn't go ahead, if we pull this out of here, it's likely that the lights and the other dimensions of the Maroubra Road traffic strategy will take forever to come. And I think this will all compound if we don't think about this carefully. Thank you.
Thank you. A question from Councillor Pandolfini. Okay, thank you, Councillor. Am I correct? You've only asked questions. Is that right? Okay, Councillor Veach.
Thank you very much. Look, I just would like to, once again, obviously, I'm hoping councillors will vote in support of the rescission motion. Ultimately, this is about our duty of care and to consider the safety of people. It's not about cyclists or motorists. It's actually about people, and we have a duty of care in that respect. All of our kids learn to swim and also ride a bike at about the same age. And we go to a lot of effort. We have swimming pools with learn to swim programs, and then as people get older, we support them through that to continue swimming safely, whether in our pools or beaches, by providing swimming lessons, by ensuring that we have qualified lifeguards at our pools, and obviously at our beaches we have council lifeguards and we have the wonderful surf club volunteers. We have NIPA programs. So you can actually learn to swim at the age of 5 or 6 or whichever age, and then you can continue to swim safely in our LGA. Likewise with bikes, we have our great bike riding learning area up at Heffron Park. We have the great pop-up pedal parks, which many councillors have attended and supported and promoted on their social media because they're great. But then basically once you sort of hit the age of maybe 10, that's it. You're on your own. And that's why we don't see any people riding to school at the age when they should start to become independent and perhaps get to school and then go to work and uni and so on, because we pull that out. It would be unthinkable if we decided, yeah, we don't need so many lifeguards at the pool, or maybe we don't need them in our beaches, maybe just get rid of them in winter. So it's about protecting our community. It's not just about, and we have councillors here who put up many motions, you know, around particular traffic intersections and right-hand turns and so on, who do consider the safety of their constituents if they are drivers. And I just don't see why. Most people walk, drive and cycle at some point, but we're only considering them if they ride. It would be unthinkable to not be putting in pedestrian crossings, signalised traffic lights. And so it's just, for most people, we just don't understand why people who ride, when they at the time that they choose to ride a bike, that's when we're not going to protect you. We'll look after you if you want to go for a swim, if you want to hop in your car, maybe if you want to cross the road. But once you hop on a bike, that same person, it's like, forget it. It's nonsensical. It's nonsensical. And I do worry that, you know, once you start pulling out these plans, people are having accidents, there is a liability there. It will certainly, whether it's liable or not, it'll be in the media. You know, we will be held to account, whether liable or not. This council will be held to account, and the people who voted against these things, because there will be accidents, just as the gentleman who came today got hit by an SUV. We've all had that. If you ride a bike on a main road, and most of us avoid them because it is so dangerous, you do get instances of road rage, and you do get people sideswiping you, and you do get people opening doors. I'm not sure why my personal safety is only taken into consideration when I hop in my car and not when I hop on my bike, because it's the same people, actually. I hope you will consider the rescission motion, because it's done in good faith. It should not be a political issue, and it has become one, unfortunately. Thank you.
Are there any further speakers? Councillor Said, then Councillor Hamilton, and then are there any further speakers? Otherwise, I'll go to Councillor Chappell to close the debate. Councillor Said.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And I thank everyone who spoke tonight, and also thank all the emails that I received, including the one from the Randwick Botany Greens explaining to everyone the template to say how to write to us and what to write about. Mr Mayor, I think people forget the reason why we're here and the reason why the Maroubra Road activation was started in the first place, as it is in the report that it was a motion that yourself brought up on the September the 17th, 2019, which is almost 4 years ago to the day, and I seconded that motion, and that was after a horrific accident at Mons Avenue and Maroubra Road. And as Councillor Beecher said, it concerns me that we are forgetting about the drivers who, as the report also says, that over the last 5 years, 80% of accidents have happened at these intersections we want to build, and the second highest was at Mons Avenue and Maroubra Road. And as you know, Mr Mayor, in the last term, we were inundated with people asking us for cell lights at Mons Avenue and Maroubra Road. And that's why the recommendation in the report actually says that the 9 key intersections need to be endorsed and released as a community consultation. The report be brought back to detailing the outcomes. There's no mention of a cycleway in the recommendations. There was no mention of a cycleway when we asked for the Maroubra Road activation and study. And as the survey said, 19% of the people, which was the highest, said that we should be doing something about intersection safety, pedestrian safety and traffic performance were the three highest. Now, according to our bicycle priority routes, we have 11 of them, and Maroubra Road is not one of them. Now, also, we do have an east-west connection. Number 10, Hillsdale to Maroubra Beach, Donovan Avenue, O'Sullivan Avenue, Hague Street, Mons Avenue, to provide an east-west bike link between East Gardens and Hillsdale to Maroubra Beach, including a link to the Anzac Bikeway. So we have covered ourselves for that. We're a progressive council and we think of cyclists. And as I've always said, and as I said to the speaker, but I think he must have misunderstood me, we have campaigned to make the Anzac Parade cycleway a number one priority, because if you have east-west links to the Anzac Parade and there's no cycleway on Anzac Parade, it obviously is a huge waste of time. And if anyone has ridden or driven or caught a bus through Anzac Parade at the moment, in peak hour traffic in the morning, it is absolute gridlock, and you are taking your life in your hands if you're a cyclist. So we really do need to protect cyclists. We really do need to concentrate on Anzac Parade. Now, Councillor Olive just tonight mentioned that the intersection at Avoca Street and Bundock and Sturt is based on the cycleway. This is why we're removing, well, I would like to remove the cycleway resolution from this motion, is because if this happens to this, I do not want, as Councillor Beach said, the blood on my hands of people trying to get through that Mons Avenue intersection without a set of lights. And if the delay has been because there's a bike cycleway on Maroubra Road that has held it up, and also at the same time, that cycleway, just to be planned, will probably cost us $300,000 or $400,000 in a consultant, as per usual, and it may never be built. The state government's the one who funds these, a grant funds these. They decided we asked for Anzac Parade to go first. They decided that they wanted to make Doncaster Avenue and Houston Road first. It's taken nearly a year and a half, and it's way over budget. And what have they done? They've pulled the funding. Even though Chris Mintz apparently says that everyone should be riding a bike, he actually pulled the funding. And now that has stopped, and there's been a huge delay, and Houston Roads probably will not be built. And at the same time, Councillor Luxford and myself, Doncaster Avenue, we said you cannot take away the roundabouts. We were told, yes, you can, because consultants who designed it said it is. Engineering experts told us you can. Well, you can't. And then we had to spend $350,000 of council ratepayers' money to build a roundabout. So all I'm saying is that we desperately need, people have been screaming out for 4 years to have an intersection at Mons Avenue and at Royal Street, and it's perfectly planned in this plan. Let's just get ahead with it. Let's just get on with it. Let's make the residents give them what they want. They're the highest voting people in here, and let's get on with it, and we'll build the other bike cycleways in the meantime.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you very much. I've listened to all debate tonight. I read the emails that were received. I made a phone call and spoke to a resident. I just have a few points I wanted to raise. What I've heard tonight is some ridiculing of residents and ridiculing of the majority of councillors that voted for this last Tuesday. We've heard that this decision will not impact existing cycleway plans. That was made very clear by Mr. Lehman. This rescission motion was lodged last Wednesday, and we had a councillor workshop over the weekend, and this decision and this rescission motion was not mentioned one single bit, not by a Greens councillor to anyone. They didn't raise it, they didn't ask any questions. We were afforded an opportunity during that workshop to discuss anything we wanted to discuss. We were asked, is there any further business? Are there any other items the councillors would like to raise and would like to discuss with the directors, with the general manager?
Point of order, there is a reason why it couldn't be made, and perhaps the general manager could answer that question, because I did raise it with the general manager, Councillor Hamilton.
Okay. Look, I actually don't think that is a point of order as it relates to the Code of Meeting Practice. I'll get Councillor Hamilton to please continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so the last point that I didn't have on my notes, and I had to squeeze into the bottom of the page, was cycleways were not made political by anyone other than Councillor Chappell, who tweeted on the night of the meeting that Labor and Liberal have voted
away a cycleway. That's political. We are here. I'm a resident since December 2000, bike rider, raised 2 children, ridden around Centennial Park more times than I can even recall. And this is not about politics. This is about sensible planning, and we trust and entrust decisions made by professionals that are sitting to my right. So we're not making anything political, but you are.
Sorry, point of order. My understanding is that the councillors actually changed what the recommendation of the staff. So that's actually misinformation.
Okay,
Thank you.
sorry, thank you. Just hold on. Thank you. Points of order need to be related to the conduct of the code of meeting practice, not around subjective judgments as to the content of councillors' statements. Further to the point of order raised by Councillor Nielsen, a point of clarification from the General Manager.
Mr. Mayor, yes, there was discussion at the councillor workshop regarding this with Councillor Nielsen, raised it with me, and also Councillor Chappell and Councillor Veach did too. In saying that, if the councillors wish to raise it in the general business part, they could have done that, but it certainly was raised at that particular meeting with myself.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. There being no further speakers, Councillor Chappell to close the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, everybody, for your considered response to the rescission motion. I appreciate the time you've all taken to think about this. I appreciate the time Councillor Hay has taken to ride the path, and I do appreciate that some mornings there aren't heaps of bikes there. Equally, I go up to Maryborough Road to get the X96 or 396X as it's now called into the city not infrequently and see large numbers of cyclists, so it can depend on timing. I would also say the use of this path would be primarily people riding to the beach, people riding to school, people riding to East Gardens, which wouldn't necessarily happen at that time. But also once you do have the Anzac Parade cycleway, you have the whole of North Maroubra able to take that down and down in on the way. And currently, as I say, I do ride in, and I currently ride down Hague Street, which is too narrow and unsafe, and I've been almost hit by a car there in the last 2 weeks. And then I go down Anzac Parade, and I was almost doored outside Fresh Point the other day. This is a real live concern for those of us who are riding at the moment. And I'm sure Councillor Hay has also seen that there are streets in our area that we're using that could be safer. Councillor said this isn't on the list. Of course he's correct, it's not on the list, but it could be on the list. And I think what the evidence and information we've had from integrated planning is that this is something that is considered, this is an option that staff have put on the agenda. So the idea that we're somehow overriding the staff by doing the thing they said should be on the list, I think is frankly a little bit ridiculous. I welcome the commitment to the Anzac Parade cycleway, very happy to work with Councillor Said and all other councillors to get that built, obviously. I do have a concern, though, that this might be the first cycleway we knock off, because I have previously heard a number of councillors around this table speaking about the Bundock Street cycleway and, oh no, maybe we've made the wrong decision. In that context, I have had some councillors mention that perhaps Maroubra Road was the more sensible option, but those same councillors are now voting to knock that off. So our form on this to date has been quite good, and I wonder whether this is actually the start of a very dark time. Councillor Nielsen's right, a thorough briefing is how we should be making our decisions in this place. It would have been nice to talk through it on the weekend. To be honest, by 4 o'clock, by 1 o'clock on the Sunday where I had childcare duties and everybody was hungover, it didn't seem like the best time to have what I thought was likely to be
Point of order.
Sorry, thank you. I will hear the point of order.
Saturday morning. Really?
Sunday.
No,
Okay.
you want Saturday morning? I cannot believe. First you call this political, and now we're being slandered.
Okay, thank you. Hold on. Thank you, councillors.
I withdraw,
Thank you,
Mr.
councillors.
Mayor.
Hold on. Sorry, say that again.
I withdraw.
Thank you. Councillor Chappell is withdrawn. I caution Councillor Chappell to keep as close to the motion as possible.
I'm just responding to what Councillor Hamilton raised in the debate. I didn't think Sunday afternoon was the right time to have that conversation. I thought we were all quite tired. I was personally quite tired. I wasn't ready to bring more debate up after a weekend I felt had kind of brought us together and where we'd had quite a good bit of collaboration and co-working. So I apologise that conversation didn't happen then. I'm very happy to have that conversation now or any other time.
Councillors, we're closing the debate. Councillor Chappell, please continue. As I've always said, all speakers will be heard in silence. Councillor Chappell, please close the debate.
I'd just like to finish by saying I didn't look at these intersection upgrades and say, well, you know, stuff those people, they're driving. I don't ideologically agree with driving, because I recognise these intersection upgrades need to be made. I recognise that we have expert evidence suggesting what to do at each of these intersections. The community is not unified on it. I mean, I think Councillor Rosenfeld noted that when he posted about it and got a lot of people saying, what about a roundabout? I think, you know, the community is far from unified on this, but we as a council have resolved to make the right decision because we recognise that there are big safety risks and we want to keep our community safe by doing the right thing. We're all unified on this. There's no reason why any of this would delay the cycleway. I mean, I make the commitment to you all now that if they came back and said, we build the cycleway, but it'd push back this intersection by 2 years, that everyone at this table would say, absolutely not, do the intersection upgrade now, make it safe. This is not what's being proposed. That we've come to this in good faith. And
Councillor Chappell, please continue. All councillors be held in silence. Please continue.
I've been really disappointed, actually, by the conduct of this debate, and by...
Councillor Hamilton, please. Councillor Chappell, could you please continue? All councillors will be heard in silence. Please continue. We are closing the debate. Thank you.
We shouldn't be making major active transport decisions by last-minute amendments in the middle of the night that are changing what our expert teams are telling us to do. That's what we've done here, and I think we have an opportunity to change that decision, to go back, to get a bit more information, to understand how this will impact grant applications for the stuff we all care about, these intersections as well. And I'd love it if we had that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. There being no further speakers, I will now put the rescission motion. Okay, there's been a call from a division from Councillor Veitch, seconded by Councillor Olive. All those of favour of the rescission motion? Okay, we have Councillor Pandolfini, Councillor Nielsen, Councillor Veitch, Councillor Chappell, Councillor Olive. All those against? Councillor Hamilton, Hay, Luxford, Rosenfeld, McCafferty, Wilson, Said, Burst, D'Souza, and the Mayor. I declare the rescission motion lost. Thank you very much, councillors. There being no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 7:55 p.m. Thank you.